Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and this is Dell's new XPS 13 launching in January 2018. It's a slightly refined design, so it looks very similar at first glance to the XPS 13s that we've seen for the last couple of years in terms of sort of a thin and light design, slim bezels, carbon fiber case, but this model is actually even thinner than previous generations. It's still a 2.7 pound laptop. I'm told it's actually a fraction of a pound thinner, but you won't notice a huge difference there. But what you might notice is just how much thinner it is, which is it went from 15.3 millimeters to 11.6 millimeters. Also, around the sides here, you'll notice a big difference is the ports. We've got two Thunderbolt 3 ports on one side, and on the other side, we've got one USB Type-C port and an SD card slot and a headphone jack, and that's it. There are no USB Type-A ports. There's no power adapter separately. You can plug in the power adapter, which is USB Type-C style power adapter, into any of those ports and it'll work. It's just that there's only Thunderbolt 3 on one side because that way you can get away with only having one Thunderbolt 3 controller. In order to go sort of thinner and lighter, the cooling system has been changed a little bit. So instead of having one heat pipe and one fan, there's now two heat pipes, two fans, and a special cooling material over the top to help dissipate the heat and keep things from overheating. And they are coming with 8th generation Intel Core processors, Kaby Lake R quad-core chips, and so they're going to offer a significant performance boost over earlier generation processors. Now, Dell did put out at the end of 2017 a couple of models with Core i5 and Core i7 Kaby Lake R quad-core chips, but these new models are thinner and lighter and have a Windows Hello capable camera here so that you can do facial recognition for logins. These also have a slightly slimmer bezel than the previous generation version. They do still keep the cameras below the screen, which is something that has been annoying people for years. I'm told that the trade-off there was basically that most people don't use those cameras very much for anything at all, and in order to sort of give it the sleek design, they decided to sort of go with below. So you've got the camera if you need it, but you do run the risk of, if you decide that you're going to do a video chat on your computer instead of on your phone, you might see your knuckles in the shot, or if you don't position this right, you might get unflattering angles, and that's just what it is. There's edge-to-edge glass, whether you get the touchscreen version or the non-touchscreen version. Both options are available, and previously the glass was not edge-to-edge if you got the non-touch version, but now it's available on both. And the fingerprint sensor has been moved over here so that it is now built into the power button. So that's sort of a quick look at the version with black and the carbon fiber case. There's also a new white option, which has a sort of very similar design, but the difference is, and you can't really get this in the video, but if you feel it, while it looks almost the same, it feels a little bit different. That's because instead of carbon fiber, it's a glass fiber material. Feels a little bit more sort of rigid, a little bit less soft, but it still feels pretty solid. If you didn't know better, you might think it was a sort of plastic feel, but it definitely feels very sturdier than a lot of sort of plastic that might sort of give a little bit under your touch. Nice wide touchpad here. In order to go with the white, a lot of thought went into redesigning things. Even the backlight color, for instance, includes more of a blue light than a white light, so that you can actually see the backlighting instead of just having white on white. Ports and everything else here are pretty much the same. And these guys are coming to market in January 2018 for $999 and up for these particular models, starting with a Core i5 processor. Dell is still going to offer the older, slightly thicker version for prices starting at $799, and the difference there is that the entry-level version has a Core i3 7100 dual-core 7th generation Intel Core processor, and that's just because Intel has yet to release the quad-core Core i3 variant. So the entry-level version is still going to be the dual-core previous generation, and perhaps that might change when a quad-core Core i3 15-watt processor is available in the future. Something else that I didn't mention, and this is something that was actually introduced with the versions that came out in the fall, is that while it is that 15-watt quad-core processor, Dell does offer performance profiles that allow you to sort of run it hotter or colder depending on your needs. So if you're annoyed at how noisy the fan is, you can sort of switch to a less performance-oriented and quieter, cooler power option. And if you want bleeding edge performance, you can switch to that as well. I'm told that when these first hit the streets in January, at least the versions that are being shown off at CES, don't have the latest firmware that allows you a huge differentiation between those performance modes. But after doing some more user testing, they're going to put out a BIOS update that lets you change between different power profiles. So under some circumstances, that 15-watt processor might push as high as 27 watts, or under other situations, it might use significantly less when you want longer battery life, cooler performance, quieter performance, so that the system doesn't overheat. So that's a quick look at Dell's XPS 13 2018 edition laptops. This is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and you can find more details and photos at liliputing.com.